Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello, David. On this beautiful Monday here in Cincinnati, Ohio, following what could have been a remarkable weekend for us. We were that close,
That
David.
close, my friend.
That close to having a joyous. I'm still excited about the rest of the season.
Yes.
But we're that close to having a joyous podcast today. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, man. And we're talking about that close. Yeah, we're talking about Stanford and Arizona State last week, 15-14. Had an opportunity to win that football game, up 14-6, but yet couldn't find the way to get it done. And now we're on to the Colorado Buffaloes. The Buffaloes.
David, we were up 14-6, but you and I were talking about this.
Yeah.
It felt bigger than that because we had gone into their home. We had established not only that we were competitive, but we showed a little offensive dominance there for a little while, holding them to 6 points. And then to see, it's just, I've always wanted to ask an All-American and a Hall of Famer like yourself from the college level who also had great success in the pros. What happens at halftime? What happens where we were 14-6 ahead, being dominant, and we get outscored 3 field goals to none in the second half and lose by a point?
Well, you go back to what you were successful in the first half. And most teams make adjustments. And, Stanford obviously made adjustment defensively. But, when you're trying to come out the second half, you want to look at it and see what worked. And then what do we do differently that didn't work? Stanford comes out second half and they know on 3rd down and 3, they're going to run this, 3rd down and long, they're going to run that. So you make those adjustments. And I feel like we did not make enough adjustments to continue to move the ball down the field like we did in the first half. So you have to look at the plays that are being called. The offensive coordinators, just like defensive coordinators, they have a script that they follow. And 1st down and 10, 1st down and 7, 1st down and 5 for penalties, 2nd down and long, 2nd down and short, 3rd long, 3rd and short. So you start looking at those plays in the first half and how successful were you on those plays? Well, you know what? You're going to probably do those same things in the second half.
Right.
It might be a little minor adjustment that you don't throw a 12-yard pass on 2nd down and 12. You might want to throw a 6-yard pass in 2nd down and 12, so you can shorten the field, shorten the distance.
Right.
So what did Arizona State do? It just didn't look like they did enough to stay in the game or to control the game. And Stanford did what they normally do. Stanford is going to try to be in that 3rd and short situation. And as Willie said, Coach Shaw, that's what his son does, and that's what Stanford did. And Stanford beat him throughout that game.
It's funny. You and I had lucky enough to have a talk with Coach Shaw over the weekend, just the 3 of us having a nice chat. And what he made me realize, and what that conversation made me realize, even though they were down 14-6 at the half, Stanford came out in the second half and almost went into an offense and a game plan where they were ahead and trying to run out the clock. They took every ounce of time to run a play. They were in no hurry to get off the next play. They were running plays that ate up time. And it was almost as if their mindset was, if we can keep methodically chipping away at this time, we're only down a couple of scores. We're only down 3 field goals. If we keep them off the field, we get our 3 field goals. We win this game, and darn if they didn't do it.
And when you look at it, David, it makes sense. I never really looked at it like that because I'm a defensive-minded person. I'm trying to stop you, get you off the field in 3 downs so you can punt and get back to our offense. But as Coach Shaw, Willie Shaw, was telling us how Stanford runs their offense, and I'm hoping I'm not giving anybody any insight of what Stanford does, but, 1st down and 10, Stanford wants to get, 4 to 5 yards on 1st down. If Stanford doesn't get 5 yards on 1st down, what Stanford is looking for is, how do I get to 3rd down and short, 3rd and 2? 3rd and 2 is manageable. 3rd and 8 makes it a little bit longer, but
right.
3rd and 2 is manageable. So if Stanford doesn't get to move the ball to chain on 1st down, and now it's 2nd and 10, Stanford's thought process is, I got to get 3rd and 2. How do I get there? Is it a running play or is it a passing play that will give me 5 to 6 yards? Stanford's idea is 5, 6 yards of play maybe a 12 to 15 play drive, maybe 7.5 minutes to 9 minutes in time, guess what? Your offense is off the field. And never thought about that. And when you can play and manage a game like that, you have a chance to win. And Stanford's defense didn't give up nothing the second half.
Right.
Arizona State's offense didn't move the ball the second half. 3 and out, maybe a first down, but next play, 3 and out, they got off the field. Stanford never panicked because Stanford's game plan was short and simple. We can keep it short and simple. We got a chance to win, and 5 field goals won that game.
It's funny, David, how 3 and outs breed 3 and outs. You've said that to me multiple times. You'll say, you get in a rhythm offensively, and when that rhythm is clicking, look out.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's stopping you. But you can also get into an unhealthy rhythm and an unsuccessful rhythm where it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And you've said multiple times on multiple podcasts how demoralizing that can be to a starting defense who doesn't get enough rest on the sideline before they go back out.
And when Arizona State's offense kind of got into a lull of not doing anything, Stanford never changed their game plan. Arizona State scored the touchdown, and now at 21-6, Stanford has to come out of their comfort zone and now throw the ball down the field, trying to make big plays because they're now down a whole lot of points. But when the game just kind of moseyed along, I call it the Cadillac mode, sitting in that Cadillac, cruising down the highway, and that's all Stanford did. And it looked bad for us in the Sun Devils because we couldn't capitalize, we couldn't get a break, and that's how Stanford won that game.
I honestly thought we had more talent. And I don't think Willie came out and said we had more talent, but he said we were equally as talented. And, you'll hear people saying, we've both heard this over the last couple of days, oh, Carter Brown missing that field goal, that puts us over the top. Or if Elijah Badger's toe was just in bounds on one of the best catches you'll ever see in your life that young man made. And that's not – we both went back and looked at that tape. I believe that kick was tipped. I believe the field goal was tipped by a couple of fingers, changed the rotation of the ball. The ball dove right below the crossbar. I think that kick goes in. That's not what did it. And David, I know that you're a big stats guy and we always cover a couple of stats, and I looked at a couple. This is the one I want to share with you that I think you're going to go, see?
Yeah.
On third down efficiency, Arizona State was 4 out of 13. We converted 4 out of 13 third downs. Stanford converted 9 out of 19. That's 9 times our D did not get off the field.
And remember, I've said it many times, and I'm probably going to say it as long as we're talking football. You've got to get off the field. Defenses have to get off the field. When you give them, obviously, 19 opportunities, Dave, that tells me that Stanford is holding on to the football. 19 opportunities to get that third down to be successful, and they did it 9 times. That means that they are dominating the football game and they're keeping your offense off the field. And, NFL, when I played with the Cincinnati Bengals, our 88 year went to the Super Bowl 23. We had the best offense in the NFL. We had a quarterback who was MVP in Boomer Esiason. We had the Ickey Shuffle. We had running backs who James Brooks and Ickey Woods are both averaging over 100 yards when they run the football. They were so powerful that all we had to do on defense was get 3 and out. We were a bending defense, but we didn't break. Well, because we knew an offense that was going to score points. And then another thing that I talked about was we had defensive goals. We wanted to make sure that we gave 16 points or less in the game because we knew our offense was going to score 21 points. And when we lost those games, the games that we lost, we either gave up too many points or our offense didn't score enough points and we wound up losing close games.
Right.
Football it's funny, man. One of the things I heard when we were talking to Willie about teams are not won. Games aren't won by players. They're won by team. Football teams are won by the 11 guys doing the same thing on the same page.
And he went on to say, you can have a great point guard
Yes.
and a great forward or a great center, and they'll take you all the way through an NBA season. Or you can have a pitcher and a major hitter on a baseball team that can carry you quite a way. But he said in a football game, you better have 11 guys on both sides of the ball and your special teams players that can make you a great team.
And I've always
said that made a lot of sense.
And I've always felt that. I've always thought about that because, you could have, like I say, 11 guys on defense. And let's say that star defensive player is making all the tackles. but he's making all the tackles, but the score is, you've given up 30-something points on defense. Well, if that one guy is making all the plays, guess what? You're down by 30 points. So if all 11 guys are making plays, and once again, you might have that guy who makes 9, 10 tackles, but you've got 8 other players who are making 3 or 4 tackles in that game, most success is going to happen to that defense because they've got a contribution from everybody, not just one guy.
They did. And David, you make a good point. Those were, those 9 third downs that keeps the ball out of our offense's hands. But look at these stats. It wasn't that far off. So when we were on the field, we made some yards. Stanford's overall total yards were 398. Ours were 355. They had us by 40 some. All right. Not horrible there. Passing, they had 320. We had 227. They only had 78 yards on the ground. So we were doing something right. They had to put the ball up enough. And what a defense wants to do, I believe we did. Bend, don't break, bend, don't break. 5 field goals is the definition of bend, don't break. But when you keep a team to 15 points, in your mind, you're hoping your team gets you at least 3 scores.
Yes, and I do believe that's the reason why they did not win this football game. So when Arizona State lines up on the football field, and the time of possession really doesn't matter. It's how it was run, how it was ran. Stanford 9 for 19. Stanford has the clock rolling. They have the clock moving, and when the clock is moving, Arizona State's offense is sitting on the sideline doing nothing. And like I said before, when we went to the Super Bowl in '88, we had the #1 offense in the NFL. We had the number 17th ranked defense in the NFL. When we got to the playoffs, we had the #1 defense out of all the teams that were in the playoffs. So if it's 16 teams, we were #1 on defense. You know why? Because we didn't give up points. We gave up a lot of yards, but we held them to field goals. And all we knew was if we keep them under 16, we got a chance to win. Our first game in the playoffs, we played the Seattle Seahawks. We beat them 21-10. The ASU championship game, we're playing the Buffalo Bills. We beat them 21-13. And then we get into the Super Bowl against the 49ers. We lose 20-16. Remember that our point score? If we can keep them 16 or less, hopefully our offense can win a game, but our offense couldn't score a touchdown to win the game. So, Arizona State right now, with everything going on with this football team, change of coach in mid-season, quarterback gets hurt, you bring in a freshman, you got a interim head coach. They're still fighting. They are fighting. Washington a couple of weeks ago. Disappointing though to beat Washington and then struggle against Stanford, but they've got another chance. And that's
isn't football funny? We beat Washington. We beat Washington. We lose to Stanford. Yep. Washington beats Stanford handily.
Yes.
And we go to Stanford and lose by a point. I think everybody watching that game knows that there's a pretty decent chance we should have won that game. Let's switch over. We know Colorado's coming up. If I'm not mistaken, Colorado's now 1-6.
They are 1-6.
They got thumped pretty good in Corvallis against Oregon State. You and I both know what a difficult place that I've spoken there multiple times on that campus. And it is they rally around that team like a major city rallies around its high school team. Everybody turns out. It's a festive atmosphere, and they often play them at night. And that place it's its own little version of Death Valley when you get to Corvallis. But we should still. I look today, and I know you're not going to like this because I know the first 2 words out of your mouth are going to be Eastern Michigan.
Yes.
But we're a 13-point favorite at Colorado with an over and under of around 46.5 points. When I say that to you, what do you think?
Well, first of all, what's scary is they're going to Colorado. They're going to the high altitude. When do they get out there? I don't know. And you talk to me about travel and what it takes to get there, and we'll talk about that. So first and foremost, the high altitude can really make a difference in the lungs, the preparation when you get there. So hopefully Arizona State gets there Thursday for a 1:00 game on Saturday. That way they can get acclimated to the altitude. I'm not a fan of, we're talking a 1-6 Colorado team versus a 2-5 Arizona State team, and giving Arizona State giving Colorado 13 points. It's 13-0 right now, Dave.
At home. And you said last podcast, you said unless the team is horrible, and I mean horrible, they're given 3 points just for being at home. So if in your mindset, that's actually 16 and a half.
Yes.
Because you got to expect them to have a 3-point advantage playing at home. But they feel we're so much better, I guess, that we're 13 and a half. Using your philosophy, we take that to 16 and a half. We going to beat them by 16 and a half?
I don't know if we could do that. I know the Arizona State football team that played against Washington could do that if they beat Colorado. But if they come out there and they, I won't say go through the motion, but if they putt around like they did in the second half, then you're going to have a good football game. All you got to do is give Colorado a little bit of light. Paul Brown told me many, many years ago when I was playing for the Bengals and he recruited me. He says, when you got your foot on the gas pedal, you don't take it off. When you have your foot on your throat, pretty simple, you don't take it off because you are trying to, one, intimidate the team, and two, you're trying to set a precedent when you play, that we are here to take you down and not let you breathe and play this game. They call that the fight in a team, the fight in a player. Is all 11 defensive players, is all 11 offensive players fighting like that? When you see that on the football field, you see that in those top-ranked teams that are in college football. But Arizona State right now, because of the turmoil and the mixture that's going on in that locker room, they're still fighting for their coach. They're still fighting for their interim coach. But yet, is it the fight that everybody's coming out round after round? And that was another thing, too, that Willie Shaw said to us, that, if you go back and look at Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier fight, the Rumble in the Jungle, I mean, them guys are out there trying to knock each other's head off. Right. That's how you play football. You play football the same way, no matter who's the underdog or who's the favorite. And for Arizona State to be the favorite, you got to go in there and you got to ball your fists up and you got to go toe-to-toe with Colorado and you got to knock them down as much as you can.
David, I got 2 questions for you. Number one, for those of us who didn't play major college football and haven't gotten off a plane or gotten off a bus and played football in that mountain air in Colorado, physically, what does it feel like? What is the difference, the sensation? I have to tell you, I've had a number of programs, a number of shows in Colorado, and I'll find myself gasping for air a little bit. I'll be thinking, what? I can't get up those stairs? And everybody looks at me and goes, are you all so thirsty? You're going to get really thirsty and you're going to be out of breath. Did you notice that on the field?
I did. We played the Denver Broncos in Denver. Thinking maybe our second or third year in the NFL. John Elway was the quarterback for the Broncos. So, we had to do a whole lot of running with John Elway.
Oh, boy.
And let me tell you something, man. The first series when I came off the field, Dave, honestly can tell you, I thought I played 4 quarters of football. My oxygen level was down. I was on the sideline with that oxygen mask. Me and that oxygen mask, I think we were making out, man, because I had that thing on my face throughout the game because it almost like it takes your lungs and sucks all the air out of you and you have no air to breathe. And I had to do that for 4 quarters. Every time I came off the field, I was sucking wind. When I got in at halftime, I could have swore I played 6 quarters because I was done. I was flat out done. But in halftime, in the locker room, we had oxygen in the locker room. So we were sucking in that wind. And even though we went out a day earlier, it doesn't matter, man. If you're not used to it, if the body's not used to it, it will suck the air out of you. And Arizona State coming from Phoenix, coming from Tempe, 85, 90 degrees right now down there, going to Colorado. Boy, I tell you what, I hope and pray that they're out there early because it can suck the game right out of you.
Is there anything that they can do? Is there anything that any team, Arizona State or any team can do? Can they run more wind sprints? Can they run the stairs in the stadium? Can they do anything that expands the capacity of their lungs that helps even remotely prepare for the difference in elevation?
Not in 1 week, Dave.
Not in 1 week.
Not in a week's time because they're preparing for Colorado right now. We are, 4 or 5 days out before that game starts. They're preparing for Colorado right now, and that preparation is not changing. They're not going to make them run more sprints. They're not going to make them do elevation things or do other things. They're getting prepared to play that game 1 play at a time when they get to Colorado.
Sure.
This is basically something that has happened in training camp. Getting yourself prepared, in shape for anything. But you really can't get in shape for Colorado's air unless you're in Colorado and you practice in it daily. And Colorado football team does.
Is the winning mentality coachable, David? And here's what I mean by that. You've got a 2-5 team that could have easily been. There's a couple more wins that could be in there. I think we both know they could have given a better effort against Eastern. And yes, Saturday, excuse me, was very winnable. Is there a mentality that starts to creep in? Oh no, not again. In other words, how do you teach, other than winning games itself, how do you teach a team to be a winner?
Well, you got to keep them focused. Focus on the job or the task at hand. There are so many professional and college and high school teams that don't win games. You don't very seldom do you see a professional team go 0-16 or 0-17, but yet they may win 1 or 2 games. You still have to perform. And as a coach, you've got to get your guys to still perform and make plays. You also got to be able to talk to your players and say, listen, it's one play at a time. It's one day at a time. It's one thing at a time. And you can only control what you do on that particular play. And I'm going to get back to the collective group thing. Arizona State's offense looked good the first 2 possessions or 3 possessions or in the first half of that Stanford game.
They sure did.
And then they come out the second half a little flat, but yet not as enthusiastic as they was when the game started. Now, is that coaching? Is it players? As a player, I don't blame anything on the coach because I have a job to do. And my job is to go out there and tackle people, knock the ball out, get the ball back to our offense. But you have to have it in your mind that when you're down, when it's not going well, you still have to fight the fight. Dave, I played in many games where I've had double-digit tackles, and we lost the game. But I've also played in games where I have 6 or 7 tackles, and we won the game.
Right.
And I feel bad. I feel bad because 6 tackles didn't help this team win, but yet doing my job did. Not going out there trying to do something I'm not supposed to. Stay with the script, do what you're supposed to do, and you're going to be okay. Arizona State right now, they're going through something because the high against Washington and the low against Stanford. So when I look at that, Dave, there is a middle.
There
I
is.
can get back to the middle for Colorado so we can feel like we felt when we beat up on Washington.
If you'd have asked the average person who follows the program, David, what they expected following Eastern, what they expected after the following of Coach Edwards, I don't believe they would have said, we're going to beat Washington and we're going to give Stanford at home everything they can handle. You and I are doing this podcast. We have high expectations. We have high hopes. We want to come on and sing the praises and look forward to the future games. The average fan out there might be going, see, knew they'd lose. That it was awfully close. That field goal gets tipped by a couple of fingers. I know that people didn't see it at first, but if you go back and watch it, that ball changes. And then, Elijah Badger, that catch at the end, remarkable catch. It's an OBJ type of catch that he makes there and just can't keep it to it. Or I think we kick a field goal right there. And then we do have a nice 2-game winning streak. So there were some, as heartbreaking as it had to be for them to be in the locker room following that loss, as a coach, you got to say, we just came in, played a team tooth and nail that just went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Gentlemen, we got to travel next week again. And again, which people say they're a lesser opponent, I guess 13.5-point favorite. I have a feeling, David, that when we come on our next podcast, they're going to take it to them.
Oh, I think so too.
I think they're going to take that energy of a close loss, realize how well they played a very decent Stanford team at home, and I think they're going to put the hurt when they go to Boulder.
Let me tell you something, man. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday at the Bengals game against the Atlanta Falcons. The 2 most important possessions in football is the first one when the game starts and the first one when the second half starts, whether you're offense or defense. If you're a defensive guy and the offense gets on the field, and I'm Arizona State, that possession for me in that first series is critical because we have to set a tone and a standard to let Colorado know that we came here to beat you. If it's the offensive side of the football, what's important with that offensive team is to communicate with each other and move the ball down the field and put points on the board. Preferably 6, more than 3. But that first possession in Arizona State's victory against Colorado has to come up with making plays on both sides of the ball. And it all starts with the special team, the kickoff or the kickoff return. If the kickoff puts the ball in the end zone, they're on the 20-yard line or the 25-yard line, defense has to play. If the kickoff return is coming to us and we have a chance to run it, we've got to get that football beyond the 25-yard line so that we can play with a shorter field instead of a longer field.
David, as an average fan watching that game this Saturday, anybody that's watched the game who follows the team, what can you take me back to the rarefied air there? What can we expect to see them as a team and as individuals? You said you came out after the first quarter. You thought you'd played 4 quarters. You're sucking down oxygen. You're sucking down oxygen at halftime. What can we expect watching that game?
I think the Arizona State football team is going to fly around the ball. I think they're going to give what they've been given, led by their I believe he's a captain, Soleil. Soleil is all over the field on defense.
He had 50. I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe it was 14 or 15.
And that's week in and week out, Dave. That player is making those plays week in and week out. And I heard the commentators talk about him during the game, and they made a comment. They said, "Man, you're just killing it on defense." You know what he says? "Hey, man, I'm just trying to win. I am just trying to win." And I
sound like anybody you know.
I'm trying to
sound like anybody you know.
Yeah, he said, "I'm trying to bring my guys to the winner's circle, and so every time that ball is on the ground, that ball is in the air, I'm trying to get there before anybody else." And that's how you win. That's how they're going to beat Colorado. We need 11 Soleils on defense chasing the football. When you do your job on defense, that means if they run a blitz, if they run a zone, and everybody is where they're supposed to be, it's going to be hard for Colorado to be successful. But if you try to go out of your existence, you still there, Dave? Something happened, man.
I'm here.
Hold on. Oh, no. All right. Somehow, man, it flicked off and went to something else. But anyway, as we were talking, Colorado is going to challenge Arizona State. A 1-6 football team is not going back down. Arizona State's defense, those guys have to do their job collectively all day, every day to be successful. And once again, if I'm a defensive guy in Soleil, hey guys, we got to get off the field in 3 so we give it to our offense so they can do their job and we can win this football game and get back to Sun Devil country back in Tempe.
Right. So if I'm starting to learn from you, and you've made me a student of the game. So if we're blueprinting this, if we're on offense first, we go down and put up at least 3, hopefully 6. We come back with a nice defensive stand. We come out in the second half. Whichever one of those we didn't have, we play well coming out of the gate again right there. I've heard you blueprint before, at least 20, 25 carries between the X Factor and Ngata.
Yes.
Hovering somewhere around 150 yards. We win the third down conversion battle. Again, we lost it badly this past week, giving up 9 out of 19 to Stanford. That cannot happen again. Get your team off the field, get your defense off the field. When you do have a nice methodical drive, you're keeping their offense off. You're doing a nice job. And what's nice here is we have a nice sustained drive. Obviously, it's going to tire our offense out because we're talking about that rarefied air there in Colorado. But who's it giving a nice rest to? The defense. And the other part that can happen is, say the defense can't get off the field. Arizona State's offense better take that next possession like they just got off the bus.
And David, it is more than just X's and O's. It's all about, who creates space, who creates opportunity. And if our defense creates opportunity to get the ball away from Colorado and give it to our offense, and our offense do what they normally do. And I think one of the important things too is getting the X factor in the game.
Yes.
He's got to carry the football 25 times. If he doesn't carry the football 25 times, then that means we're asking our quarterback, Emory, to win the game. I don't want Emory to win the game. I want Emory to manage the game.
Right.
I want the X factor and what he does by getting the ball down the field. And if you saw in the Stanford game, Emory throws the big bomb to Badger. I think it was Badger. Throws a big 60-yard touchdown to Badger. And my question is, that's what you want to do when you're running the football really well. Because now you're sucking up the defense. You're bringing them up at the line. Right. The linebackers are now in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage instead of 12 and 15 yards deep. The corners say, hey, you guys ain't tried to throw the ball deep on us all day. And what do? We throw a deep bomb. We got a touchdown. And I'm telling you, I just feel like that part of the game disappeared because we were going 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. I mean, you look at some of the statistics, the play-by-plays, it was Emery, throw a pass, incomplete. First down, Emery, throw a pass, incomplete. Third down, well, he's got to throw the ball now, throw the ball incomplete, and we kick the ball. And I'm like, where was a running play in there? Even a screen, something that would throw Stanford's defense off. You've got to mix things up. You've got to scare people. And right now in that Stanford game, Stanford's defense wasn't scared. They weren't scared at all. So can we take this? And I say the momentum. I don't know if there was a momentum in the Stanford game, but there was momentum in the Washington game. Can we take that information, that momentum, and the little miscues that we had in Stanford and go and dominate a football game against Colorado? You're giving me 13 points, or I'm giving Colorado 13 points in Colorado. Wow.
In Colorado.
Oh, man, that is tough to do. But yet, there's a reason why. And I'll tell you something, man. The Stanford and Arizona State game, Stanford was favored 3.5. The final score was 15-14.
Right, we covered.
If you betted Arizona State to take that, you won.
Correct.
So I'm telling you, the odds makers and the people who are doing these numbers, they must know what they're talking about. But I'm a little worried, once again, because of the high spread. But I could care less about the spread. Just go win the football game. Go do what you do best and take care of your business.
Let me ask this. I promise I'm not looking ahead. I promise I'm not jumping ahead. But as an athlete, I want to ask you this question. Yeah, we're going to Colorado. Yeah, we're going to play Buffalo. They can see they're favored. They should be awful pissed off about what just happened. That when they come back that following week, we are at home against UCLA. Any chance at all? And this week during practice, as a player and as coaches, are two things going on? Are you preparing for Buffalo? Are you also doing things because you know you play UCLA the next week?
Well, Dave, D Square, love you like a brother. I'm not really looking at UCLA as coach and staff or whatnot. But let me tell you what Arizona State is doing. UCLA has a game this weekend, so we're going to send scouts out to watch UCLA.
Got it.
Playing Colorado. So they're going to look at UCLA, even though they're going to get film because each team exchanges film throughout the year, every game. But they're going to go look at UCLA and see what UCLA is doing so that they're prepared when they come back and the scouts have did all the necessaries in the recordings and taking all the information down on UCLA. They're going to be worried about Colorado. This coaching staff, this football team is worried about Colorado right now. When that game is over with and after we go in that locker room and it's a victory and we're all singing the fight song, once that fight song is over with, now we're talking about UCLA. Right. On that flight back home, they probably got some kind of technology that they could send certain plays or things that happen in the UCLA game that they're playing this weekend, send it to the coaches. Guys may have iPads. Boom, put it on their iPad, and now you're watching on that long trip home UCLA. So if I'm the Sun Devils, I know it's tough because you don't want to look ahead because I think if we go back some days, week 2, we got Oklahoma State in week 3. We didn't play Eastern Michigan. We were probably looking down the road at Oklahoma State and we couldn't play and take care of our game. I think this coach has got these football players this week practicing and preparing to beat Colorado, and that's the only game on the schedule, and every player should be thinking that way.
I agree. I've always wondered, and I've had some conversations with friends when any major team is playing an opponent, but that next week they're playing a game that makes or breaks their season, their arch rival. For instance, you got a big game in Happy Valley this weekend. Ohio State played Iowa last week. In my head, I'm going, did Ohio State do anything during the week that also looked at Penn State? As a fan, I wonder those questions. And I've never had a chance to ask a player if that actually happens in real context.
David, it is hard to play Colorado thinking about UCLA. Because if you're thinking about UCLA, the job at hand against Colorado doesn't exist.
Got it. It
doesn't exist at all. So UCLA doesn't even exist. UCLA is not even talked about. Now, I know players, you look around because, our rival is University of Arizona. University of Arizona, which, don't win a lot of football games, but they're playing pretty well now. They only had one game on their schedule that they're really worried about, and that was against us.
Right.
My 4 years there, they beat us all 4 years. I never beat them. But we had the better football team, but I never beat them. But University of Arizona, they lived and died to play Arizona State. Well, my college career was to live and die and beat the UCLAs and the USCs because they didn't recruit me. But I couldn't play UCLA until I finished playing Washington, or I couldn't play USC until I finished playing Oregon. And once I played those teams, now I'm focusing on the Bruins and the Trojans. So
that's so great.
Buffalo's right now is #1 priority for the Sun Devils.
The primary reason I asked that question is, you've been watching games, I've been watching games, and let's say that a score at halftime is nowhere near where it should be. The favored team is lackluster. There might be a couple of points ahead, or they're tied at halftime. You'll invariably hear the announcers go, "Oh, they must be looking ahead." And I just wondered if that was a real thing.
It is
your explanation was dead on.
That's a great question, Dave, because people, you hear that and then go, "Are they looking ahead?" Well, I'll give you an example. And Buckeye country, blah blah blah. Ohio State plays the first game of the year against, let's say, Akron. Akron's not a bad football team, but they're not the caliber of Ohio State.
Correct.
And Ohio State, well, you know what? Better yet, I'll give the best example. Ohio State versus Notre Dame. That game that we thought was going to be a big old blowout.
That I happen to owe you a steak dinner for you. I do remember
that one. That game, Ohio State's favored by 20, 30 points.
Right.
I said, there's no way they're going to beat Notre Dame by that much.
Yeah.
Even though I know Ohio State was a better football team, Ohio State's not looking past Notre Dame, but Ohio State didn't play their best football game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame played a great football game against Ohio State to keep it close. You're a 20-point favorite, and we wind up losing by 9 or 10 points. That's it. We don't have what do you call them? A win that is like a bad win or a bad loss. Ohio State win the game. It's a win. Luckily, you got out of that game with the win.
Okay. No such thing as a moral victory for the loser.
No moral victory. That's the word I'm looking for. So Arizona State, you're finna play Colorado. You're a 13.5, a 13-point favorite. Go into this game and beat Colorado. If you beat Colorado by 7 points, you win the game, because this is what the mindset is of these football players. We have got to have a mindset and a mentality of winning football games.
Win the game, period.
That's right. I don't care if it's 7-6. I don't care if it's 41-6. Win the game. Once you walk off the field and you won the game 7-6 or 14-6, you can correct the mistake that you made in that game. But if you lose that game, you still have to correct those mistakes, but you've lost a game that you were favored by. And those things are hard to swallow. So I don't pay attention to the point spreads and whatnot. Just give me a victory. And how do you get that victory? Stay on the field, offense. Let's complete those third down percentages and make them better. Defensively, just do what you did against Stanford. You might bend, but if you don't break and kick field goals, keep it under 16 points. Go give me 21 points offense. We're going to win this game on Saturday.
I think it's going to happen too. I think it's going to happen. I believe we're going to go into Colorado. I think we're going to do everything you just said we were supposed to do. And I believe they're going to win. I think they'll win handily. Then they're going to come home. I believe they will give UCLA everything they possibly have and keep that game real close, if not pull one out. And I think we both know that'll be a huge recruiting day for them. They're going to have chosen that game as the game they want their A recruits to come in. And what did Willie teach us? It doesn't matter what happens today, because you're going to be on next year's team. You're here being recruited. I remember that like he said it yesterday. Okay, yeah, we might lose today. You said we just lost that game. It was close, or maybe we win it. But this isn't. You're going to be a part of next year's team.
And that's a player, Dave. It's great to go on those recruiting trips and visit the campus. Meet some people, meet some guys. Meet the academic advisor, and then go to the football game and sit there and watch it. What a great atmosphere. When I went to Arizona State, I don't remember what game I came down to, but I come down there and I saw the atmosphere. I heard Willie Shaw say to me, "Hey, listen, this game doesn't matter to you, because next year's game will matter to you."
Right.
So if you see what you see today, and those players, some are going to be gone, seniors are leaving, some will transfer, some may not come back because of academic issues, But yet when you come, this is your team that you're going to be part of. And when I heard those words, and Willie said that to us, when I heard those words, I said, wow, I have a chance to be playing Stanford, USC, UCLA, Oregon's, Washington's. I got a chance to play that. Oh, and by the way, the Wildcats down there in Tucson, I got a chance to play them, and I got a chance to make a difference.
Right.
That's why I'm signing my letter to come to Arizona State.
It's awesome, David. Thank you.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff, brother.
I love the podcast because what I try to do every single time is to get you to share insights
Yes.
that those of us that didn't play the game at this level wouldn't necessarily know. And unless you were involved in coaching or participating in a sport like this, how would we know that? And that's why when you're able to either go back to your college days and give us an expertise or an actual experience, or go on to the NFL with your Bengals career and give us an experience, I believe it takes us to a place that the average fan doesn't get to go, who doesn't follow a podcast with a former All-American or All-Pro. So thanks for what you share every week.
You know, and Dave, I appreciate you, man, because I think listening to you and the questions you asked me are the fans' questions. The fans don't get a chance to ask those questions. So it's a believable saying when, and I'm going to use a guy that I think is probably one of the best announcers in all the sports. I listen to Tony Romo. I listen to Tony Romo call a game.
He's awfully good.
Oh my gosh, Tony Romo, when he's on that air, Tony Romo is telling you exactly what's happening on the football field. You know why? Tony Romo's a quarterback. Tony Romo reads defense. Hey, David's a quarterback on defense. I'm reading the offense. When I see a guy spread out really wide, he's not going to run it out because the sideline is right next to him. He's going to come across the middle. So you know what? The former wide receiver who now playing safety, I look at that guy, I step up because something quick is happening. And when I see that quarterback take a two-step drop, he's getting ready to deliver the football. Now I'm looking outside, and guess what? That receiver's coming right at me. So it's either me hitting him or me taking the football as an interception. So I think the perspective of what you've been asking me in our podcast just let me do the things that I normally do. I can talk football because I played the game. Doesn't mean I know all about it, but I played the game enough to know a little bit about it and give the insights to those who are listening to our podcast. And we're just talking football, man. This is just two buddies stepping here talking football, just like we do on the golf course. We're talking football or we're talking golf swings. And when you can create something special like we got here with the Believe in Arizona State, we're going to go a long way. And I believe the Sun Devils will handle Colorado this week.
I do too. And David, something for the future before we hang up today is this. And I have a friend named Mike Fritz. Mike just moved within 10 minutes of Arizona State's campus. He's one of the best professional speakers, one of my good friends. He does what I do for a living. He's been going to all the ASU games. So I've told him to start to go to those games. And instead of farting around the stands and eating and not watching, I told him to watch a lot more carefully. And we're going to possibly have him on as a guest. He's a very good guy. He's an athlete, and he was a great speaker. So he might give us a wonderful fan's view of what those games are like. And possibly the next time he would have a chance to do that is following the UCLA game.
We'll do that, man. And I know Kayla's going to be back home and get her insights and woman's perspective on what she sees and what she says, because the girl's pretty good at what she does and she listens to what's going on. And, you know, she should be on the sideline because that girl knows her sports, man. And that would be cool. But once again, Arizona State at Colorado this week. I think it's a great opportunity for them to get their third win and get back on the trail of making things happen. But the Stanford game is over. We can't talk about Stanford. The football team can't think about Stanford. We got to think about the Buffaloes and a great opportunity to get that third win.
Agreed.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man. And we'll do it again. How about the Sun Devils? There we go.
Go ASU.